So, here we are, episode three, three takes. Imagine that. I'm wearing, you might notice, my brand new Piggly Wiggly shirt. Thank you, Debbie. For show and tell today, I brought the second of two Christmas ornaments that I was given for the secret. You probably can't see this at all, but inside here, there's one of the little monster guys. Where we at? There we go. Right? And a little copy of the book in there. And thank you, Gabby, for that. And I have also the first one she gave me right here. These are my favorite Christmas ornaments. And I have to talk really loud because I'm far away from my microphone, but that's okay. So there's a copy of the book inside of a treasure chest. Those are pretty rad. Anyway, today's topic, if you will, is just to cover some. I had put out a thing about questions about the Montreal puzzle and stuff like that, and so I thought I would just go through and do an audience question episode, and I got a lot of really good questions. Lots of them can be condensed into, there were times where I was asked basically the same question 3 or 4 different times, so I've just condensed them into one. So if you don't hear your question, sorry, don't be offended. It wasn't intentional or personal. So the very first one, I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for, actually, because the first question is basically why Dutch, right? Like, we'll just jump right into it here. Why is the immigration connection here Dutch? And full confession, anytime that the immigration stuff comes up outside of the solved puzzles, I don't really pay it a lot of mind. I think the Dutch, so visually, the picture looks a lot like a self-portrait of Rembrandt, and has been speculated because Rembrandt himself is Dutch, I believe. And there's a lot of connections made there. The story in the front of the book kind of connects them a little bit, but I admittedly don't, because I have not paid a lot of mind to the immigration stuff, because I don't think it's super necessary, right? Like, I don't think knowing a puzzle's immigration connection is, Chinese or Dutch or any of these things is a mitigating factor in getting you to a cask directly. I don't think that I don't think it matters as much as people want it to all the time. Clearly, it matters to an extent when you look at things like, Cleveland is often referred to as the Greek puzzle, and lo and behold, it wound up in the Greek Cultural Gardens. But that wasn't, ultimately, Cleveland's kind of a tricky one to talk about because it, was basically solved on Google. And But if Google didn't exist and you were still working that puzzle and you got there, um, you know, I don't think you could say that knowing it was a Greek puzzle, got you to that place. But maybe you can. I just don't pay a lot of attention to that stuff. Um, Number two, do I feel people are spending too much time trying to make verse 8 fit because their association of the leg eater on Drummond with beating of the world? Um, I'm going to address the verse 8, verse 5 controversy, if you will, on the Montreal 2.0 episode that'll be coming out just after the new year. Um, but just to kind of touch on it briefly, first of all, I don't 100% discount the verse 8 theories. I think it's important to be able to have flexibility within a good puzzle, right? Like, if you're looking at it from the perspective of a puzzle maker, I think it's important to have kind of a flexibility and because if you're guiding people with walls through a puzzle, then you're doing it for them and they're just kind of along for the ride. But if there's ways that you can find, interchangeability and flexibility between the matches and stuff like that, one would be remiss not to at least try. And so, I believe in verse 5 being the correct verse for Montreal. However, if somebody were to find a cask with verse 8, I wouldn't be shocked, nor would I be upset, because frankly, I just want these things found. Um, but as far as connecting the leg eater with the beating of the world, yeah, I mean that seems like a pretty logical connection, right? I mean, the beating of the world is connected to the word drum because of the Japanese hints, and because of drumming and stuff, and the leg eater is there, and so I mean, yeah, that's a pretty logical connection to make. Um, Whether or not it's more logical than, say, being in front of the leg eater and seeing FB walls carved into granite, you know, making a connection to verse 5. Um, so that's kind of where I stand with that one. And again, I'm going to dig a lot deeper into the full thing on the new episode. But um, so moving on, somebody asked me, how much influence do you think Sean Kelly had in choosing the burial site since he went to school in Montreal? Um, to be honest with you, I don't know how much of this question I'm really going to be able to answer without complete conjecture, because I don't know a lot about the history of Sean Kelly other than the fact that he went to school there. I think if my memory of what I've read is correct, I think he went to school there quite a while prior to working on The Secret. Um, but I mean, one could easily speculate and write out a logical timeline if you wanted to. That because he went to school there, that maybe he made the suggestion to Byron. If you're going to bury one outside of the states, maybe Montreal isn't such a bad idea. Um, as far as like dig spot and that goes, I don't think he had any influence on that at all. But I don't know enough about it to be able to tell you that. This question was actually compared to the idea of, JJP has said before that he was there when Byron buried the Cleveland cask. And, that's, I guess, a little bit different because, I mean, JJP is from Cleveland, right? Like that's his hometown. Whereas Sean Kelly is not, I don't think he's born and raised in Montreal. He just went to school there, kind of thing, right? So I don't know. I don't really like to speculate on people I don't know. But anyways, moving on. My thoughts on the Japanese hints for Montreal. The first thing that always jumped out at me about those was the description of the pronoun, because they talk about the proper noun. They talk about how he said river. It was mountain, river, or town, right? Could it be a mountain, a river, or a town? And the fact that he chose those three words was always really interesting to me, because he could have chose any three words. Like several things can be proper nouns, right? The name of a guitar. Sorry, I'm pointing at one because I have one over there. The I guess a professional athlete, a shoe brand or something. You know what I mean? Like there's proper nouns around those things, and he really could have picked any of them, but he chose mountain, river, and town. Um, all three of those things can describe a location, right? Not everywhere has mountains, right? Some places don't have rivers, and obviously there is lots of space in the world where there's no towns. So having said that, that part was always really super interesting, because he's kind of describing something. Weight and roots, I won't even begin to speculate. Like the Japanese hint says, think of construction, but there's so much to think about when it comes to construction that you know it's just too open to kind of walk that road. Um, and then the wingless bird, iron horse thing, I think that's just like iron horse is a colloquialism, is the fancy word for that. It's a word you use to describe something, or like a that doesn't necessarily have a name. Okay, I'm going to put it to you that way. You can look up colloquialism as soon as you figure out how to spell it properly, because the L's are all switched weird. But in this sense, I'm not sure. Like a lot of people compare that to like hot air balloons, helicopters, things like that. I know there's a literary reference kind of in here. There's a poem called "The Land of a Thousand Bridges," I think it is, and it's a poem about Montreal. Like it literally names Montreal in it. But there's a line where it says, "A wingless bird ascends and a voiceless siren sings," or something like that. And I'm more inclined to lean on that literary reference than I am the Iron Horse Japanese hint thing. Like to me, that doesn't. I can't see what that would. Unless. So here's a good example of another colloquialism: the leg eater. That's not actually what it's called. I don't even know if any of us know the actual name of these things, but we call it the leg eater because it's a thing eating a leg, right? So think of Iron Horse as in the same sense as leg eater, right? It's a name for something that doesn't necessarily have a name. Um, but yeah, I'm much more inclined to lean on that poem than I am the Japanese hints. I don't actually feel that the Japanese hints are super hinty, and I kind of wonder if that was something that he did because he had to, right? Like the market over there would have needed, because the English in this book is very specific, especially within the verses and stuff, and the like the syntax and the way that it was built. Um, Other countries would have a lot of difficulty. Maybe I'm not a linguistics expert. Obviously, I'm speculating here, but probably it would be a lot easier for foreign countries outside of the United States who don't have the English market that the United States does to read those properly, right? Like it wouldn't be so simple. So that's why they put hints in there in the first place. Um, and so and I think again he kind of just did it because he had to, right? Not thinking. I'm sure he didn't actually think a lot of people were suddenly going to jump on a boat from Japan, go to the United States in 1982 or in '83, and try to dig these casks up. You know what I mean? So um, I don't know. Is the leg eater the only landmark we've confirmed in the painting? I guess like that's one of those questions that really depends on who you ask, right? I mean, as far as we can tell definitively, yeah, it's the only one that we can pinpoint and say yes, that is definitely a real life landmark. Um, However, like you can see the people have drawn the shape of Quebec in the collar, and there's if you try really hard, you'll see a lot of stuff from the like the Expo 67 area and stuff like that. Um, I personally speculate that what you're looking at, because I've always thought that the cask was at the Mount Stephen Club. Um, I think what you're looking at is a bird's eye view of the the front area kind of thing of the Mount Stephen Club. And I'm going to dig really deeply on that on the Montreal 2.0 episode. But there. So if you ask me, then yeah, then no, it's not the only landmark. It's the only confirmed one that we absolutely know of. But I mean, I guess that's the beauty of the vagary of these puzzles, isn't it? Is that you can just draw locations on these pictures. If your mind is set so much on a particular location, then you know you you could probably figure out a way to design it into the picture for yourself. Um, so yeah, and I guess the last question. This episode's going to be pretty short because I'm working on the Montreal one, kind of refining it and stuff like that, and then life. But this question is kind of a two-parter, but it's sort of asking the same thing twice. Does consensus within a large group usually lead to the best or correct solution? Uh, no, I don't think that's the case. I think no, I don't think that's the case. Does having such a wide array of theories for verse 5 and less theories for verse 8, does that give verse 8 more credibilities? And credibility. And I think the answer to that is also no. And I think it's like it would be kind of silly to say the more theories you have, the better they are, right? Because when you really break it down, it only takes one really good one to find them. And you know, if you have 10,000 okay ones, you're no closer than if you have no theories at all. It's in the so all the other theories build up, and you know, hopefully one of them sticks out and gets the prize. But I think at this point, what it's going to take, like with Chicago, say, those guys hung out in their house and with pen and paper and maps and books and things like that and figured it out. And, in today's world, it's going to take pieces of all these pretty good theories, right, out there to build the one theory that finds the casks, right? That's why, like, if anyone finds one now, it's 100% the communities. You know what I mean? I don't think like those people will keep their cask or whatever, but the find in and of itself is, I think at this point, always going to end up being, the communities as a whole, because there's so many theories out there and so many ideas, and I think if you pick a lot of them apart, you get some really good stuff out of them, right? I mean, for the amount of, um, I'm trying not to swear, for the amount of, heck that I give Anagram Guy, I'm sure somewhere in there something's gonna kind of work. You know what I mean? I don't completely shut those things down. I mean, my good friend Adrian recently shared a comment from a post that he had made about anagramming, and the way he built his made more sense to me than almost any other anagram theory out there. And I'm not discounting all of them. I'm just saying that of all the ones I've read, that one made the most sense and applied to the puzzle the best. So, having said that, if you take that sort of idea that just sort of sticks out, and then you apply it to all these other ideas that stick out, you got a pretty good chance of at least narrowing your spot down correctly, within a pretty decent range, And so I don't think that, I think the value of having a lot of theories is just in that, is that you can pick them apart. And I don't think there's a problem with that. I don't think that's stealing. I don't think it's plagiarism necessarily. I think there are better ways to describe things than claiming them as your own. But, you know, because only certain people can actually be credited with finding certain things, right? Like Fenix found the FB walls, and Robert Fox found the coordinates, and all that kind of stuff. So very few people on a singularity level can be credited for these things. But I think in the end, it's always going to come down to the community. And I think almost despite the internet, that was the point, right? Was build a community of treasure hunters, build a community of people that want to find these things, give people a reason to get together and work together in collaboration for something that is, strictly for the sake of collaboration, right? And proper collaboration, not just, as I said before in an older episode, just working with or next to somebody, right? That's the point. And I guess we've achieved that in a lot of ways. I mean, we're there with, there is a large community of people working together, to find these casks, and that's really awesome. So that's all I got today. I hope anything that I said today taught you anything, and I probably won't be putting out another anything until after January 1st. So if I don't see you guys on like maybe a surprise Sunday fun day or something, have a rockin' Christmas. I love you all. Be good to each other, and we'll see you next year.